Welcome back to Millennial Meditations for another edition of news for people who hate the news. This week's been pretty interesting with the news. Trump got in some hot water with everybody. Um, China is trying to do their best to upend global car markets and stuff. And a movie finally came out that's been talked about for a while that apparently was pretty bad. So let's get into it. Um, Smaller news first, I guess. House Speaker Mike Johnson is pushing some legislation that would require anybody who wants to vote to have some kind of voter ID. Um, I can already hear the liberal white women getting upset with this now and claiming racism and blah blah blah. But I think anybody with some common sense in their head, which liberal white women don't have, would say, yeah, this is a good thing, especially with millions upon millions of criminal aliens coming across our southern border. It wouldn't surprise me if the Democrats try to somehow, get them to vote to upend our entire political way of life, with how we do things here. So this is a good one, I think. And even if you, studies have been shown too that liberals talk down and think less of minorities, the people they claim to be for. So this wouldn't surprise me if liberal white women just absolutely lose their minds over this. And I think even Tim Pool has talked about before how somebody was doing kind of a man on the street thing, asking black people in the hood, "Hey, where's the DMV?" And like one guy was like, "Oh, you just go down to First Street and make a right, and then go down a couple of blocks, make a left," and was giving the person directions on how to get there because the guy thought that they needed directions. Not he didn't. The older gentleman didn't know that it was just a question being asked. So that completely disproves the liberals' mindset that black people can't get ID. Like, everybody has an ID now, man. Everybody does. I mean, maybe if liberals actually interacted with the people they claim that they're for, then they would realize this. Just, it just blows my mind. Liberal logic don't make any sense. Moving on. Y'all remember Trump's bloodbath controversy a couple weeks ago when he was talking about auto manufacturing possibly being an issue here soon if something isn't done about foreign investment and stuff like that? Well, apparently, Chinese car manufacturers like BYD are, to no one's surprise, being subsidized by the Chinese government, which means their stuff is way cheaper, which has the potential to threaten global and American auto manufacturing markets. So if we start importing real cheap Chinese cars that cost, I don't know, a third of the price as what is made here, then a lot of Americans that still work here in America making American-made cars are going to be out of a job because we all know right now people are living paycheck to paycheck if they're lucky because Biden has completely screwed up the economy. So if they need a new car, they're going to go with the cheapest option possible. And when you have a brand new Ford or a brand new Chevy that costs as much as a house, people aren't going to buy that. But if they can get a cheap car, $5,000 for something to get to and from work and get groceries every week, that's what they're going to buy. So this has a real potential to upend the American car market and global car manufacturing markets as well. I'm not an economic expert, though, so I can't say to what end, but to quote Trump, it would be a bloodbath for the market. Speaking of Trump, he, like I mentioned, he got in a little bit of hot water with both sides of the political aisle this week because he unveiled his plan for abortion should he be reelected, which I hope and pray he will, and I think he will, but that's for the future to decide. But he said, in short, that he would leave abortion legislation up to the individual states. So on the left, he pissed everybody off because, they want abortion up to and including birth, as we've seen in Virginia in the past. And then on the right, he pissed everybody off because the pro-lifers are like, no abortion ever. Brr. So this is the best possible answer, in my opinion, and here's why. I tend to lean more toward the political right, which I know I'm doing it opposite on the camera here, but I lean more politically right on this. I don't like the idea of abortion just as a form of like birth control, essentially. But there are times I do think it is needed. If a woman has a high likelihood of dying during childbirth, I think that's a viable option there. Now, I do know that C-sections are a thing as well, and, medical stuff gets complicated. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a dude talking about stuff on the internet, and I cut metal for a living. So, I'm kind of talking out my rear end on this one. But cases of rape, I don't think a woman should be forced to carry a baby from rape, or to kind of lean back on 90s Democrat policies, safe, legal, and rare. Bill Clinton said it. That is one thing I agree with him on. It shouldn't just be willy nilly. Just because I don't want to have a baby. Like at one point, people have to start taking accountability for their actions. And there are plenty of ways to keep from getting pregnant. Like, this ain't rocket science. People have been making babies for a long time, and at this point we know there are several ways to not make a baby. So, and I'm not going to try to sit here and preach, abstinence only, because let's face it, that ain't going to happen. People are just not going to do that. But, if you don't want to have a child at a young age, then, there's ways to not get pregnant. So just be a little responsible, I think. Is that too much to ask for? So moving on, Donald Trump also got into a little bit of hot water because he called for the defunding of NPR. It is to no surprise that NPR is a completely left-leaning propaganda outlet at this point. And I can't remember who it was this week, but somebody online pointed out that voter records from employees at NPR showed they had 87 Democrats working at NPR and zero, none, nada, zero Republican voters working at NPR. You cannot claim to be politically neutral or unbiased when you have damn near 100 Democrats working for your organization and zero Republicans or anybody independent or something like that. Something that people that can push back on Democrat narratives just a little bit. You can't claim to be unbiased in that regard when you at that point. So speaking of liberal propaganda, apparently the movie from A24, Civil War, came out, and from what I've heard, it was pretty bad. Now, I'm full disclaimer here, I haven't seen the movie, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to give these people my money or my time. However, I listened to Timcast IRL the other day, and they talked about it for almost the entire episode the day after it came out. Or was it day of? Anyway, and they just talked about how bad it was. The writing was apparently awful. The plot was pretty bad. And in the end, it was essentially just a propaganda movie to say Donald Trump bad. That's pretty much what it was. So therefore, I'm not going to give these people my money. If you are that ignorant to still claim that Donald Trump is the fascist that you claim he is, when Joe Biden has done all the things that you claimed Trump was going to do, then you are just stupid. I'll just put it that way. Speaking of fascism, Sound Investigations did a little bit of a James O'Keefe move this week, and got on video a guy by the name of Gavin O'Blennis admitting that there were FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th. No duh. And that federal agencies were actually involved with bankrupting and taking down Alex Jones. Who is Gavin O'Blennis, you may ask? Well, from the video that I saw, he appears to be a very effeminate gay man, and he apparently was a contracting officer with the CIA. So apparently he had some level of knowledge of the inner workings of the agency, and possibly a little bit of power to nudge things certain ways, as he liked to call it. This is disgusting, and the CIA should be completely gutted and just closed down. And anybody working for that agency should be barred from ever being anywhere near any kind of law enforcement ever again. I also think the same thing of the FBI, obviously the CIA, ATF, IRS, and any other federal agency I'm not talking about now. That might end up leading to somebody wanting to have a chat with me at one point, which leads me to the next thing. A guy who goes by the internet name Misfit Patriot was on Drinkin' Bros podcast this week and talked about how the FBI showed up at his house over his social media posts. On the Ring doorbell footage, 2 agents that came to his door even admitted he didn't do anything wrong, didn't break the law, didn't do anything illegal. They just wanted to talk. Now, it was funny. He even said in the video that he was at work, because he's not a liberal, which I thought was funny. But it just shows that there is obviously a deep state that wants to keep people under control and keep people's speech under control so that way they can control their whole lives. If you're watching this, never, ever talk to these scumbags without talking to a lawyer first, which is what he did. If I remember right, he said in the video that he talked with people on the Ring doorbell, and then they called him on the phone. He talked to his lawyer immediately after hanging up with the FBI agents, and then they just never got a hold of him again. He was never able to get a hold of the FBI agents who showed up at his door. That goes back to the thing I just said. These federal agencies absolutely need to be gutted and shut down. I hope that when Trump gets reelected, he pulls a Javier Milei and just starts cutting these agencies up. Figuratively, of course. I don't want any physical harm to come to anybody. But these agencies have gotten so big and bloated that their only purpose at this point is to propagate their own existence. And they need to go. Hey, anybody who is all in favor of defunding the police, why don't you also think the same way about our federal law enforcement agencies? If you have any answers to that, leave them in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your arguments on that one. Speaking of government corruption here, several Republicans voted on a bill that would extend FISA warrants and stuff, which means that the federal government can just spy on people here in this country, at their discretion. So, there goes all rights to your protection and freedom of privacy, as described in the Fourth Amendment. It would. I'm thinking back a little bit to the Twitter files that came out a while back, where it was shown that the FBI and CIA had backdoor logins to Twitter to just kind of do their own thing or whatever. And the same thing was going on with Facebook too. Hell, even Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan and admitted the FBI pressured him to shut down certain people and certain viewpoints and stuff. Which is what we're also seeing in Brazil right now. Brazil is going full totalitarian because they're pressuring Elon Musk to remove far-right accounts on X, Twitter. And good for Elon here, because he says no. unless they're committing a crime and it's proven that they're committing a crime and not just saying, hey, the government sucks. And Elon Musk also called for anyone in the Brazilian government who disagrees with him to either be impeached or step down. And I think that's the right call. There was a Brazilian journalist, and I'm probably going to butcher this, by the name of Paulo Figueiredo, I think that's how you pronounce it, who was silenced in Brazil over his criticism of their government and had his bank account seized, his social media accounts banned, and his passport revoked. That is frightening. That someone who was in their media could criticize the government and they're just like, you're done. That is terrifying. And from what I remember hearing, he was kind of on a news show similar to kind of how we have like Fox and CNN here. And he was kind of a newscaster, I'd say kind of similar to Tucker Carlson, and started to criticize the government. And they were just like, nah, we ain't going to have that, homeboy. So we need to call this kind of stuff out wherever we see it. And don't forget about these things. Don't forget about guys like him. And let's not forget about the trucker convoy protests in Canada a while back either. Because they were doing the same thing to Canadians that the Brazilian government is doing down there. So we're kind of getting sandwiched here from, communism on both ends of this. And it scares me that people in this country want the same thing here as well. So call these people out when it's happening, and let's put some shame again on communism. We need to bring some shame back in this society, and when you hear people that you either work with, go to school with, or people in your family who are like, oh, we should do the same here to protect democracy, call them what it is. Call it communism and put some shame on it. Because people need to be shamed out of thinking this kind of thing. Man. I don't even know how I got on that rant. Apparently several barges broke loose on the Ohio River, causing some damage up and down the river. I don't know what kind of impacts it had at this time, but I will try to keep an eye on this a little bit because, I live here in Ohio, and, I don't want to see anything happen in our waterways and stuff, because we saw what happened in one of our big waterways not too long ago. I don't want any bridges here on the Ohio River collapsing. Looking at you, Baltimore. But with all this stuff happening, where's Mayor Pete? Where's old Pete Buttigieg? Is he still on paternity leave? Did they adopt another kid or something that we don't know about? Where's old Pete? Probably, not doing his job still. It amazes me how these people can fail upward in politics. So we'll see what happens with this one. Police in Chicago shot and killed a man by the name of Dexter Reed. Reed was pulled over for a reason I can't remember at this time. And during the traffic stop, he apparently became aggressive with police and attempted to shoot at them, to which they responded by opening fire back, sadly killing Dexter Reed. Corporate media is trying to play the race card again because Reed was an African-American man and make this another George Floyd type incident, trying to get people riled up by citing that police shot 96 rounds at him. Now, on the surface, that does seem a little much. However, this could be a simple math question, because if there were multiple officers responding, then it's a math equation of multiplication. So, for example, here on my desk, I have a Gen 3 Glock 19. This is a 9mm handgun, and this takes 15 round magazines. So if you do the math, I'll do this live on camera here. 96 divided by 15 comes out to 6.4. So that would mean almost 6.5, but you can't do half people. So 6 officers would essentially empty 1 magazine each if they were carrying a firearm similar to what I have here. Now, most officers carry full-size handguns, meaning they hold at, around 17 rounds a person. So that would be, could be 5 to 6 officers all shooting 1 magazine. Now, that does, again, seem like a lot, but, when you are in the heat of a moment like that where you are taking fire, you do what you have to do to eliminate the fire coming at you, and do so until that stops, until the threat is eliminated. So I don't have a lot of sympathy in this regard, because the guy shot at police first. And, when you try to attack somebody with a gun pointed at you, because they had their guns drawn because he was trying to roll up his window and get back in the car or whatever, when you shoot at police, they're going to shoot back. Simple as that. Now you might be thinking, oh, you're a white dude talking about police shooting a black man, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, here's a couple other instances that I just learned about as well. There was a guy at a hotel recently, and credit to Donut Operator on YouTube for doing this video. There was a white guy at a hotel who was in a parking lot at early hours in the morning, like 1 a.m. or something, who was swinging a sword around in the parking lot and kind of screaming and stuff. So police come, try talking to him, try to calm him down, and dude picks up the sword and tries to charge at police, who then shoot and kill him. What do you think was going to happen, dude? Like, you charge at police with a weapon, and they shoot you. Like, yeah, again, not surprised. Again, in the same video, that guy was a white guy, by the way, fat white guy. In the same video of that police breakdown, Donut Operator shows another police-involved shooting where a guy who appeared to be kind of a Hispanic, Latino descent was being stopped by police because he was suspected in stealing a car in, I think it was Texas. I'd have to look at that again. But anyway, and the guy was 18 years old, keep that in mind, was stopped by police, and the guy had a CZ Scorpion 9mm pistol shoved down the front of his pants, tries to draw the pistol from his pants, and is shot and killed by police. So, if you don't know what a CZ Scorpion is, it's classified by law as a pistol, but it's a very large pistol. I mean, the whole thing is about yay big, but again, you try to assault police, then they're going to respond with lethal force. Like, it doesn't matter your skin tone, it's going to happen. So don't let the media get people riled up on this one either, because you F around, you're going to find out. Simple as that. Speaking of another story involving guns, there was an embarrassing photo that came out from the Navy that I think was supposed to be some kind of a recruiting ad or something on social media. But it shows a guy on a boat in the middle of the ocean firing a rifle from the boat. But man, this photo had a lot of problems. Apparently, well, not apparently, in the photo, the scope was on backwards. The lens cap was still on the scope. The buttstock was way too high up on his shoulder, and he was chicken winging his arm too much. Once they started getting backlash from the photo, they took it down, but people saved it, and it's been going crazy on the internet. So if you're unfamiliar with what that means, here next to me, and this isn't a perfect example, but this is a 308 AR-10. It is different than the rifle in the video, but chicken winging means, okay, first off, this is about how you should have the buttstock up, not way up here like he did, right about here. And secondly, his arm was sticking way out like this, it should be tucked in, real close to your rib cage, like that. That way, if you were actually, taking fire from an enemy, you wouldn't get your arm shot off. So, it's just embarrassing that someone in our military did that and it was put on social media. Had some technical difficulties, so I'll make this one quick. Apparently, someone went on a stabbing spree in Australia in what appeared to be a terrorist attack. Maybe if someone had a gun, they could have stopped the assailant sooner. The FBI arrested a man in Idaho who was planning to commit a terrorist attack on churches in the area, in the Coeur d'Alene area. He apparently pledged allegiance to ISIS and wanted to attack churches. I'm surprised that the FBI stopped a terrorist attack this time instead of facilitated one. If you want to know what I'm talking about there, see the Michigan governor kidnapping scandal, or every time a school shooting happens, the FBI comes out after the fact and says the shooter was on their radar. So, take that for what you will. Israel announced earlier this week that they were pulling troops out of southern Gaza, claimed this is to rest and retool their military. However, last night, at the time of this recording, Iran launched drone attacks against Israel, some of which apparently have reportedly gone past the Iron Dome system. At this time, Biden said he will not intervene. For once, he came out and said something I agree with. So, at the end of this video, I wanted to talk about some conspiracy theories I have. And with that, I am going to break out my tinfoil top hat. So, to get into some conspiracy theories here, in regards to the Gavin O'Blennis thing, I'm thinking back on all the James O'Keefe videos that have come out, and they're always gay men he's talking to. Now, one might say, why James O'Keefe maybe has a thing for gay men? Don't know. But they also all apparently work for federal level agencies. So, my opinion on this is that federal agencies are hiring more gay men who then come out and talk about this stuff to kind of make what they're doing seem a little bit more lighthearted, because it doesn't sound as bad if you have an effeminate man talk about, the government taking out citizens and bankrupting, private people here in the country and stuff, as it would be if you had someone like, a Terry Crews or, a more masculine dude talking about it. Also, it seems to me that federal agencies are hiring more people from the LGBT community to get back at Christians who have done some bad things in the past in the name of God against gay people in the past. Also, this whole Gavin O'Blennis thing could just be BS and to keep people distracted from other stuff that's actually going on. And likewise with the Navy video, it might just be a whole smoke and mirrors thing to get people talking, and not focused on the fact that our military is buying weapons more for Pacific type fighting instead of desert type fighting. So they, somebody higher up in the military has a feeling that some stuff's gonna pop off in Taiwan or something like that here soon. But who knows? I'm just a dude on the internet. So with that, I'm gonna leave it here. If you learned something new, or want someone who needs to hear this to hear it, like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think down in the comments section below. So with that, I will see y'all next time.